Tonight, we are quintessentially Q, and taking their cues from me are the quirky Holly Walsh. The quizzical Cariad Lloyd. The quixotic Josh Widdicombe.
Don't know what it means. Don't know what it means.
And for the quadrillionth time, it's Alan Davis. Their buzzers are quintessentially QI. Holly goes. Cariad goes. Josh goes. And Alan goes.
Tottenham 6, Arsenal 0.
It was a mishmash.
It was a mishmash.
Just for you. Right, here we go. This is a portrait from the Qing dynasty. First of all, how would you spell Qing, anybody?
With a Q.
Yes, Q-I-N-G. So, why is this woman so made up?
Did she walk too slowly through the makeup department at Army and Navy in Guildford?
Oh, that is the most terrifying thing, isn't it?
My mum paid for me to go for a makeover in one of those.
Did she?
Yes.
Recently?
No, when I was about 17.
Right.
I honestly looked like a woman in her late 80s. I actually looked like Mary Berry. That was what happened.
This is a portrait of Prince Zhun. He was the uncle of the then emperor. So we're talking mid-18th century, and his wife, who was called Lady Jinsei. He's about 60, and she's 14.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those, you know, spring and autumn kind of things. But it's very typical of court paintings of the Qing dynasty because it was traditional for the wives and indeed the concubines of the emperor and his family to be hidden from public view. So this posed a problem if you wanted to do a painting, because you weren't allowed to actually see what the woman looked like. They had to decide to paint the concubines to look like bits from sketchbooks, basically. We have no idea what she actually looked like. This is entirely a made-up portrait.
Is that why
Yes.
It's kind of neutral?
Yes. It's
compared to, like, his detailed face. Hers looks like, you know, when you buy a kid a colouring book and it's like, you could add whatever face you want. Like, that's the basic start of the painting.
It looks like they've started on him, they've really nailed it, then they realise they've got 5 minutes to do her face.
She looks like an emoji, doesn't she?
Yeah.
But the whole concubine thing, I mean, it was considered absolutely crucial to Qing dynasty court life. So the idea was you wanted to make sure that the emperor had multiple offspring, so you wanted to make sure he had a very healthy sex life. In fact, in the 1670s, they started a government branch called the Office of Respectful Service. So there's like a guy outside the bedroom seeing how many times a woman has been in and out that week. Wow. So and it mattered because if you went in and out that week, say 3 times into the emperor's chambers, then you would go up in the concubine standings.
That's quite exhausting for the emperor.
For him.
I think when they go in, he's just saying, we can just watch TV and have a chat.
Let's have a cup of tea and a pillow fight. There are some fantastic empresses. So these are the chief consorts. There's one in particular called Empress Cixi. So she started as a 16-year-old, you know how you do, bit of work experience, low grade, you know, concubine. 18...
Hand jobs, getting out.
Well, she started out in the lowliest position, and then she got herself over 40 years to the highest position. She killed quite a few people on the way.
She killed people?
Yes, she did.
With her hat?
Well... It does look like a mortarboard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It looks like a mortarboard with a toilet flush on the side.
The night before she died, and she knew that she was dying, she's thought to have poisoned her own nephew so that he couldn't take power.
Wow.
I know, she's really a vicious thing.
Wow, let's hope the Queen's listening.
What an end to the crown that'd be.
Anyway, what do bacteria talk about?
Is it Love Island?
Other bacteria who aren't in the room.
I love it when, by complete chance, you're correct. So they are communicating about where the other bacteria are. It's something called quorum sensing. They actually emit and detect each other's chemical signals, and what they basically do is they take a head count to see how many bacteria there are, and they base their activity on how many bacteria they have detected around them.
Like a fight, like there's 10 of us and 4 of them.
It's like the army gathering and going, right, we're ready to go over the top now because we've got enough. Lots of bacteria that cause human diseases, so cholera, pneumonia, staph infections and so on, and they use quorum sensing, so they wait harmlessly inside us until they agree that there's enough. And then they go. It's a bit like social media, right? So one person tweets, but then it is repeated and repeated and repeated till it goes viral, and you have enough to make it a story for a lazy journalist. It was very first observed in the 1970s. There are some bacteria called Vibrio fischeri, and they live in the bodies of the Hawaiian bobtail squid. Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
So the squid gives them accommodation and sugar and amino acid for food, and in return, the bacteria gives the squid the most ingenious defence mechanism by glowing all of them all at once and generating bioluminescence. So the squid is able to control this light, which is created by all these bacteria living there, and basically any potential predator that is looking up at the squid will think it's looking at the moon, because the squid can point this light downwards. Isn't it clever? I know. So it's working with bacteria. In order to do this trick, it's called counter-illumination, and the squid can even use its ink to dim the lights. And it's useless for the bacteria to glow unless there's enough of them.
That seems like a really fair payment.
Yeah.
Like, you get that incredible party trick just from getting some Like, if I got that every time I'd had thrush, I would...
I am so in love with the idea of getting thrush and suddenly being bioluminescent.
Yeah. It would definitely be literally the silver lining.
Yes.
It'd be also a conversation start, because I'd walk in and I'd go, Holly, you look great. Got through the thrush?
She looks like the moon, but she's so itchy. Oh, wow.
A roller coaster might make you queasy, but what can it cure? Yes.
Thrush.
Actually, that thrush with that thing between your legs, that's going to make it worse.
God, I went and did Go Ape yesterday. It was quite something in terms of the harness, remember?
It's not comfortable.
Been used by a lot of other people.
Are you suggesting it has chafed many thighs?
I'm suggesting that the harnesses can communicate with one another.
I got stuck on a roller coaster at Alton Towers.
Oh, see, my idea of hell.
Yeah, I got stuck in the black hole.
What?
This is the kind of audience I want for my anecdotes.
What is the black hole, Danny?
So it's a roller coaster in the dark.
No.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
If I'd have been there, you would have felt a hell of a lot happier. Lighting it up.
And it's one of those roller coasters where you're straddling someone.
Sorry, you
Hang on a
what?
minute.
So you get on, and you both in like a cart, and one of you has to sit with your legs out, and then the other kind of sits like...
Oh, OK. And you were the one with the legs out?
I was the one with the legs out.
Were you with the stranger? Did you not mean...
Yes!
Why? Oh! Why? Where are your
'Cause
friends?
I was in a 3, and those two paired up,
Okay.
and I wasn't gonna like miss out on the black hole, and then we just ran out of momentum. I mean the cart, not like the conversation. And we were there for about 5 minutes, just sat there. At one point, you could hear the other carts coming down. It was absolutely terrifying. And then they got us off in the end, and they went, "You can have free tickets to go again." We were like, "No!"
Just a guy had a soaking wet back from where you pissed yourself.
So it is the back that we are thinking about, OK.
Sciatica.
Well, no, something much more painful. Possibly even more painful than childbirth. It's considered to be one of the most painful things you can have in the world.
Kidney infection.
It's kidney stones.
Kidney stones.
It's kidney stones.
More painful than childbirth.
I have had them. Unbearably painful. Wow. So in 2018, an Ig Nobel Prize was awarded to 2 urologists who discovered a really quick way to quash kidney stones. So they had several patients who said they'd passed kidney stones when they were on a roller coaster. So they made a silicone cast of a kidney. They filled it with actual urine. They added 3 artificial kidney stones, and they took it on Disney World's Big Thunder Mountain. And apparently apparently, most effective is riding at the back of the coaster. Passage rate of 64%.
Wow.
Yeah, compared to 17% if you sit at the front. So much better to sit at the back.
Is there somewhere, like, just pictures of two people than a picture of a kidney on a roller coaster?
Yeah, probably. In medicine, a bumpy ride isn't always such a bad thing. What can you tell me about Philip the missionary's position?
I once sat behind him on a roller coaster.
Who's Philip the missionary, also known as Philip the evangelist? Anybody had a religious upbringing at all?
I can sing Lord of the Dance, if that's what you mean.
That's so tempting.
Go on.
No, why did I say that? Dance then, wherever we may be.
I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you there, wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he.
So, in a word, no idea who he is.
Is he in the Bible, then?
Which bit of the Bible?
It'll be in the New Testament, surely.
It's in the New Testament,
Yeah,
you're
New
absolutely right. He's in
Testament
Acts. He's an evangelist. So he tours the Middle East, performing miracles and
Well, you
preaching.
couldn't get tickets, though, could you? It's hard.
So here's...
It's so weird when you've got all your hair is on the bottom of your head.
It does look like you could flip his head,
should just
doesn't it? Just
flip
flip
it
it
over.
over like that.
And then your mouth will be at the top, though. That'd be weird. And your eyes will be under your mouth.
Yeah.
And every time you ate, you get food in your eyes. But at least your hair will be in the right place. But when it rains, all the water will go down your nose.
It'd be so beautiful. It'd be like the those fountains in what are those fountains called in the fountains called in Las Vegas where they Bellagio. Oh my God, I cried when I saw those.
They're the ones where they fire out and land in a hole.
No.
They're my favourite films.
Honest to God, it's like being in an old people's home.
He toured the Middle East, did he?
He toured the Middle East.
Right, Josh wants to sing Lord of the Dance again.
I saw a fountain once.
Did you?
OK.
So he toured the Middle East.
So he took
Tell us
Middle East.
about the dark room again.
When we going on a roller coaster?
You said we was going on a roller coaster. I never pissed myself.
I've got thrush.
So, this is him baptising a eunuch. Here's what happens. When the eunuch lifts his head up...
I didn't know what you were going to say.
So what happens is the eunuch lifts his head up, he's been baptised, and Philip has disappeared. So the eunuch never saw him again, but went away on his way rejoicing. Meanwhile, Philip found himself further north at the town of Azotus. So it seems to provide the Bible's only example of teleportation. Because there's a moment he's there, and the next minute he's in a completely different town. So here's the question, Philip aside.
Yes.
Do you think that humans will ever teleport?
Yeah.
Yes, OK, Holly, why?
If you think about it, 10 years ago we didn't have Uber, and now we've got Uber.
Yeah.
And that's as good as teleporting. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's just...
There's been times when I don't remember how I got home, and then I've looked at my emails and I realised I got an Uber receipt, and I thought, that's as good as...
Teleporting. Right. Now, for a classic snack to go with a classical question. So... how can you squeeze the maximum number of quavers into the smallest possible space? Yes, Josh.
Oh, no, Josh!
Is this...
Yeah.
I'm going to share yours now, Sandy.
Oh, my.
Unbelievably delicious, isn't they?
No.
Bad luck.
I like twiglets. I met a man in Sainsbury's dressed as a twiglet.
You were dressed as a twiglet.
No, I didn't even know it was a job you could do. I would have definitely done it. Anyway, quaver, where do we get the word from, do you think, the actual word quaver?
Is it French?
No, so we're going to go Middle English. What do you think it meant to quaver?
Middle English, did you say?
Middle English, yeah.
What, so quavers have been around since medieval
No,
times?
the word. I think this batch has been around since medieval times.
It
Honestly.
means to quiver?
It does mean to shake or to
shake.
It's a
tremble.
letter S. Look at that. Isn't that weird?
Oh.
You are so easily pleased.
Oh, this is...
So it began as a meaning of shake and tremble. Then it became singing in a sort of tremulous voice. Do you remember when women in church always say...
wherever you may be.
Yep, it's like Josh was in the room. And then it became the name of a musical note. Anybody know how long a quaver
Is it quarter?
It's an eighth. There are semi-quavers, which are 1/16th, followed by a demi-semi-quaver, which would be... a 32nd, a hemi-demi-semi-quaver, which is 64th, and a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver, which is a...
Danish wizard.
120. We're referring to the same quaver.
What did you say, Josh? What did you say? 128?
128.
128. So these notes are quite rare.
Why is it so rare?
So it's rare because it's so fast. So if you took a work in 4/4 time, so with a tempo of 100 beats per minute, a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver would last for just 0.02 seconds. So that is too short for the human ear to distinguish.
Oh, yeah.
But in fact, Beethoven and Mozart used them to describe brief, rapid sections in particular movements. The shortest note in any published work is a 1024th note, which should be called a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver.
That's his brother.
Yep. And it appears in Anthony Philip Heinrich's Toccata Grand Chromatica, which is written around 1820.
Somebody's pleased with themselves, isn't it? I've used a semi-demi-quaver.
Those glasses look no use to anybody, do they? They're too small.
They're smug glasses. They're intended to make you feel stupid.
So this is one of the rare uses of this 1024th note. But in the very first manuscript, an extra bar was added to the note, which meant it was actually miswritten as a 2048th note, which would be a demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver.
Oh, my God.
There it is. Look at that. That is... I mean, how fast would that... ridiculously...
madness.
Yeah, bonkers.
So could we hear? Like, what's the shortest note that we could hear?
There is a thing called Extreme Piano Channel on YouTube. You've all got some instruments beside you. Why don't you bring out your instruments? What I want you to do, you've got 5 seconds. I want you to play the same note as many times as you can and count how many times.
Counting and playing.
Did you used to do that game at school where you'd try and start a stopwatch as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that game and it was so good.
OK, ready? 5 seconds, going now. Up. OK. Holly, how many? Alan.
Alan, the bus is here.
How many, Holly?
I lost count about 12.
After about 12, Alan? You've no bloody idea. Kellyanne.
34.
34?
Honestly?
Yeah?
37.
Oh, Josh wins that one. That's
I mean,
very
it's
impressive.
a hollow victory if you happen to give your own score when you know what the other scores are.
And most piano key presses in 1 minute is 824, which is 68.5 every 5 seconds. It's a Portuguese-American pianist. He's astonishing, called Antonio Domingos, and you can see his work on Extreme Piano.
Does he just do all the same notes again and again, or is it like a tune?
No, it was just one note, but he played it with 2 fingers. Most claps in a minute? How many claps do you think?
Well, the flamenco people
About
can go very, very
400? No, 300.
300, anybody else?
200.
1,080.
Wow.
By a 9-year-old.
What?
I know.
He's called Seven Wade. 180 every 10 seconds.
Well, just for fun. He's not even doing flamenco.
He had his toe in a plug socket.
I absolutely love him in my audience on tour.
Right, favours away, instruments away. For what sort of business would you want to use a queer plunger?
I once had a nightmare with a plunger. So we had a New Year's Eve party, and then the next day our toilet was blocked. And I thought, I'll nail this. I'd never used a plunger before.
Right.
Difficult to use.
Yeah, I thought I'd just whack it down there. Whacked it down, and it suctioned just onto the bottom of the toilet. Brought it up. All I had was the piece of stick. And now I didn't just have to unblock the toilet, I had to get my hand in there to get the plunger.
OK, so queer plunger, what might you plunge into?
The ocean.
So water. You might plunge into water. It was a term given to con men who took advantage of the rules of the Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned. So, set up in 1774, it's the 2 London doctors. They were worried that too many victims were being wrongly pronounced dead and sometimes buried alive. And so they developed new techniques of resuscitation. They offered a reward of 4 guineas, which is over £500 today. It's a lot of money, to anybody who successfully brought a drowned man back to life. Well, swindlers paired up with each other. So one would throw themselves into the river and pretend to drown, and the other would jump in and rescue him from the brink of death, and the 2 of them would then share the 4 guineas. And they became known as queer plungers. How many of you around the table know about W.C. Fields?
Yeah, the cricketer.
No.
That's W.G. Grace.
He was an amazing early 20th century actor and comedian. One of his very first jobs was to drown several times a day. So he worked at Atlantic City, and he would pretend to swim out, and then he would pretend to drown, and somebody would come and rescue him, and a great crowd would gather, and they'd all applaud because he'd been saved, and they were all so thrilled. And then they would buy beer and hot dogs, and it was the beer and hot dog guys who paid W.C. Fields to drown several times a day. The Netherlands was the first country to have a society for resuscitation. Why the Netherlands?
People falling in canals.
Lots of water, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a really simple answer, isn't it?
They have fjords as well.
No,
No.
don't have fjords there.
Have you?
For God's
No.
sake.
No. You know, Netherlands is famously flat and fjords are famously steep.
Right.
So, no.
You know what? I'm just glad I didn't say it on national television.
No, that's a good thing. So the very first society, 1767, the Netherlands Society for Resuscitation, and they had incredibly strict rules about what you should do in order to bring a drowning person back to life. So first of all, you've got to take them inside, then you've got to take their wet clothes off, and then you've got to rub them with woolen materials to warm them up. And maybe, if you really feel it's necessary, give them tobacco smoke up the rectum.
They used to do that in London as well. Do you know how I know that?
Yes.
We had it on this show.
It
about
did
Spartan.
indeed. It was considered an effective means of resuscitation.
My sister fell in a canal.
Did she?
One of the best days of my life. So we went on a canal holiday in Birmingham, and
Does that go through fjords?
it's got more miles of canal than Venice, Birmingham.
I do know this.
Doesn't make it a better holiday.
No.
And my sister fell in, and there was panic, and my dad was shouting, "Get the camera! Get the camera!" And then she found her feet, because it was only about that, and my brother threw the plastic polo, and it hit her on the head and knocked her out.
I thought you were going to say your brother threw her the camera.
So there were other things you had to do. You had to do bleeding for the arms and neck. You had to pour liquor down the throat and then place the person in a preheated bed with a naked person next to them.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, to provide natural
Yes,
heat.
yes, because that's what happens when you're a keen bivouacker, like I was as a teenager. You,
No wonder you got thrush.
you learn that if somebody gets quite severe hypothermia, that you should both strip off, get inside a plastic bag together, and just keep each other warm.
OK, who told you this?
Was it someone holding a massive bin liner?
Come on, Holly, come on, in you come.
We've got to stay warm, Holly. Our Kayla said.
Is this why you're at Go Ape? Yes.
Now we come to the quintessentially QI brand of torment that is general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the tallest building in Europe?
The Shard.
Isn't the Shard?
Well, it is the Shard.
I'm in charge. It's not the Shard. I will give you that the Shard is the tallest building in the EU at the time of recording. Possibly not at the time of broadcast. The top 4 are all in Russia.
Oh.
The Lakhta Centre in St. Petersburg tops the list at 463 metres. Look at that, it's astonishing. Tallest building in the world, anybody know?
I think I went up it in Dubai.
Yes.
It is in Dubai, you're absolutely right. It's called the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
This is astonishing. It is nearly a kilometre high, and it means that at the top of it, the sun sets more than 3 minutes later than at ground level. Oh, wow. That is how high the building is. And during Ramadan, there are clerics who have pointed out that Muslims who live and work there, they have to stop fasting at different times depending on what floor they're on. Yeah, so there's one Dubai cleric. He reckons that people living above the 80th floor should fast for an extra 2 minutes. And those on the 150th floor and above should fast for an extra 3 minutes.
I was doing a gig in Dubai and with Jack D, we went up to the top of that. You've never seen someone less excited.
Europe's 4 tallest buildings are all in Russia, with the Shard coming in a paltry 5th. All right, final question. What activity causes carpal tunnel syndrome?
Masturbation.
Well, I should hope it's not masturbation, because my grandma had it and she didn't seem the sort.
Probably an RSI thing, right? Isn't it quite common with typing and that sort of
Who knows what carpal tunnel is?
It's where the tendons get inflamed.
Yeah,
on
so
the
it's the
wrist.
canal
Yeah.
that connects the arm and the hand that's in
Yeah.
the wrist, and various tendons pass through it.
Yeah.
And what happens is, when one of these swells up, it compresses on the nerves that are inside this channel, and it leads to pain, numbness, and tingling. And
It's
that is-
really painful.
It's unbelievably painful. You won't get it pretty much from typing or from playing video games or any of those things. Those cause problems like tendinitis.
Yeah.
It's idiopathic. So idiopathic means we don't know. It is an unknown cause, the swelling.
Oh, yeah, I'm still wrong twice.
And that's been our pleasure. But the chances of getting it are increased with obesity, pregnancy, smoking, arthritis, diabetes, any of those things. The only work-related activity that we absolutely know it is related to is the long-term and repeated use of vibrating hand tools.
So in a way, Alan was right.
In 2018, Kim Kardashian, she revealed that the doctor had warned her to stop taking selfies because she had injured her wrist from doing so many. What? So when she was filming an advert, she recruited one of her production assistants to take her selfies for her. Now, this is a marvellous concept, to have somebody, you're so rich, that you have your own selfie taker. So I have decided we need a selfie elf. So, Anna, if you're going to come on, please, and be our selfie elf. Yep, thank you very much. So I've got to stick now. So if you could all come in for the selfie. No, just...
I reckon this is going to be more popular than the Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, I got this. But you can't be in it, darling. No, because you're the selfie elf. I'm not having you in it. No. It's not a thing. So, are you in? Are you in? If you're taking selfies or playing computer games, you won't get carpal tunnel syndrome, but you should probably get out more. Which leads us to the scores in first place with... Oh, no, it's supposed to be on here. Where is the thing? Oh, there it is. In first place with 2 points, it's Holly! In second place with 1 point, it's Carrie-Ann! In third place with -5, Josh! And in last place with -27, it's Alan! Thanks to Carrie-Ann, Josh, Holly and Alan. And I leave you with this quintessentially QI quote from quondam quipper Oscar Levant. What the world needs is more geniuses with humility. There are so few of us left. Good night.